Hello, this is Professor Frederick Krantz, Canadian Institute for Jewish Research. We're coming to you today, which is December 4th, 2012, doing the Isralert series that we do weekly. This is Isralert 6.0, and today's topic will be the recent UN General Assembly vote concerning Palestine and its relationship to both Israel and to the region generally. Yes, the question involves the nature of this supposed statehood, and there's been a lot of unclarity. What the General Assembly has done, it cannot create a state. That can only issue from the Security Council. General Assembly, in a majority vote, gave permanent observer status to the Palestinian entity. It's a kind of step towards statehood, but it is not statehood itself. Statehood involves settled borders, it involves juridical approval, it involves acceptance by neighbors. None of that has happened. What has happened is a kind of voice vote by a majority in the General Assembly. And the Palestinians are delighted by this. They are trying to play it into an actual state. And what it is, in fact, is an end run around the accords that were signed 1993, 1994 with Israel by the Palestinian representatives and the creation at that time of the Palestinian Authority. Those are called the Oslo Accords. And the key element in the Oslo Accords is the notion that there will be a negotiation leading to an accepted Palestinian state alongside Israel, but part of the negotiation has to be the acceptance of the Jewish state of Israel by the Palestinians. And since 1993-94, that negotiation, that mutual negotiation, has not borne fruit. And in part, it hasn't borne fruit because the Palestinians, again and again, starting with the Barak negotiations, the Clinton-Tabak negotiation, Olmert's negotiation, again and again they have stopped short of actually accepting the existence of a Jewish state in former Palestine. So the issue is up in the air. The territories that the Palestinians claim are seen by Israel as what are known as disputed territories, disputatae, in terms of the Latin legal principle. They are under no particular sovereignty in modern times, save that of the Ottoman Empire, which was overthrown by the British in 1917, 1918. And the British then issued the Balfour Declaration saying that Palestine would be the homeland of the Jewish people. And that has gone on ever since. There were the San Remo negotiations repeating the principle of a Jewish homeland, the British Mandate issued from that, down to the proclamation of the State of Israel in 1948, with and after the invasion by Arab entities to prevent the Jewish state from forming. And it's followed this line down to the present day. We had great hopes in 1993-94 that Oslo would in fact lead to a final negotiation. It hasn't worked out. And just to put a point on this, going to the UN on the part of Abbas and the Palestinians is really a destruction of the Oslo Accords, which the essence of which was mutual negotiations. Palestinians have sought to move towards a state without recognizing Israel on the basis of the General Assembly vote. You may recall that last year they tried to get the Security Council to proclaim an actual state, and they lost that by a wide margin. So this is a second best. It gives them a kind of semi-state basis, but not one that actually exists in fact. Well, while this has been going on at the UN involving Israel and the Palestinians, the Syrian situation is going from bad to worse, or from worse to worser. The battle for Damascus has begun between the rebel forces and the government of Assad. And now we are told by American intelligence, seconded by the Secretary of State and the President himself, that it looks as if the Syrians are moving to arm their biological and chemical weapons. The Syrians have a very large stockpile of such weapons and of the missiles needed to deliver them, both bomb canisters and actual missiles. Some of the missiles are intermediate range, SS-9s, in fact. This is a very serious move if it turns out to be, in fact, validatable. And President Obama has said, finally, that this is the red line when it comes to Syria, that if they actually move to weaponize this material, including sarin gas, a very deadly poison gas, that the implication is the U.S. and the Western powers and the UN will intervene. I would, by the way, it's odd in the way, because we already know that by conservative estimates, 40,000 people have been killed in the civil war in Syria by regular weapons, and Obama and the West have not intervened. So precisely why suddenly the poison gas, chemical, biological weapon issue leads to a more heightened threat of intervention is an interesting question. And a third element that's going on, all of these things are happening simultaneously, involves the dictatorial grab for power on the part of the president of Egypt, Morsi. I call him now Morsolini. He's a kind of dictator. And he's using powers which he has arrogated to himself to rule absolutely, even more absolutely, by the way, than Mubarak, the overthrown former president. He's using his powers to ram through a constitution for Egypt being put together largely by Islamist groups, because the non-Islamists have withdrawn in protest. That constitution is now done, and he's moving towards a referendum to be held on the 15th of December of this month, a referendum on the new constitution, which is now going to be a kind of dividing line for Egypt itself. The non-Muslim Islamist forces, non-Muslim Brotherhood, non-Salafi radicals, the Egyptian seculars, Egyptian Christians, a whole congeries of people fearing Islamist dictatorship, are now trying to organize and come together and prepare for the December 15th referendum. In fact, many of these groups are trying to overthrow Morsi even before the referendum, which he may in fact manipulate. So the Egyptian situation is extremely fluid and very, very dangerous. The Egyptian situation pertains to the truce between Gaza, the Hamas terrorists in Gaza and Israel. It pertains to the inability of the Egyptians to properly police the Sinai border with Israel, which is a source of increasing terrorism. So if you look around the Middle East, to conclude this week's Isralert, you see a great deal of instability. You see instability in the Israeli-Palestinian relationship, which I think we can owe to the United Nations intervention, the General Assembly, threatening the Oslo Accords. We see instability in Syria, which is getting more and more unstable and spreading into Lebanon and perhaps spreading into Jordan as well, where there are Muslim Brotherhood demonstrations going on. And finally, we see the extreme problem in Egypt. And so if we step back from this, we see the terrible, sad, and tragic failure of the hopes initially raised by the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring has sprung, and the result is a much worse and much more dangerous situation than obtained before the so-called Arab revolutions. Thank you very much. I hope that anyone with any comments or questions can write to us at www.israelnet.org/Isralert. We'd be happy to have your comments and to respond to them, and I look forward to speaking to you again at this time next week. Thank you very much, and shalom.